And so as I'm talking to groups back home, I suggest to them that when we look at a cut of $20 million to a state program, in reality that's an $80 million cut because it's likely that it was a 3-for-1 match. And so that just compounds our problem as we try to fund the programs that exist in state government today.
That's right.
Okay. And no state legislature wants to leave federal money on the table,
Right.
so the enticement is always there to grab whatever you can. And I think what we're learning is that sometimes comes with consequences.
Right. And it reduces your options as to what you can cut in the state budget.
Right.
If you don't want to cut a program that has a lot of federal money attached to it, because like you say, then you leave federal money on the table, and that's hard to do.
Okay. One of the comments I heard 2 years ago as we were in a very similar situation to the one we're in today about the budget situation is, why don't we just shut state government down? We'll find out what we can live with and what we can live without. But there's some pretty significant consequences to a government shutdown. It's much different than when the federal government shuts down. Can you just share a few thoughts on that?
Sure. I think a lot of people, they don't have a real good idea of what they get from state government. If state government were to shut down, people that are unemployed, receiving unemployment compensation, they wouldn't get their checks that they're relying on right now. People on public assistance of some type would not get their assistance that they need desperately.
Which includes disability payments.
Correct.
Which includes funding for schools and for special ed.
Right.
All of
Lunch
those
programs and things
all
like
of
that.
those programs stop.
Right.
Potentially, the worst case scenario, state prisons would open the doors because there'd be no one there to guard the prisoners.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and the same thing with state police. We need them to
Right.
patrol the roads.
Right. I think the difference between the state and the federal government is this. The federal government can create exemptions for funding essential services where that provision does not exist in state law or in the state constitution. Is that an accurate statement?
I think it is.
Okay.
If legislation is passed ahead of time, you can have like continuation budgets
Right.
put in place to help avert some of these problems.
But I think 2 years ago, no one wanted to do that because they were afraid that it would take the urgency off from actually resolving the
That's
budget
correct.
problem. And so, we did find ourselves in a very difficult situation 2 years ago. And I think most of us here, I'm not hearing the same comments I heard 2 years ago, at least not in Lansing circles. Most people, I think, now recognize the urgency of getting a budget done and getting it done on time. So. Well, I certainly want to thank you, Jay, for being my guest today. I wish I had a gift to offer you like they do on some of these other talk shows, but I have nothing to offer you other than my thanks, and I appreciate your willingness to spend a few minutes with me.
That was a pleasure to be here, Senator.
Thank you. This has been Capital Comments, and we'll return right after this. Halloween is an exciting time for children, but it can be scary for parents. I'm Senator Wayne Kuipers with precautions to ensure your children have a safe Halloween. Always check candy for tampering. Costumes should be light-colored or reflective. Children not accompanied by a parent should trick or treat with a friend, staying in familiar neighborhoods. And think about serving a meal beforehand so your children aren't tempted to eat too much candy while they're trick or treating. Be careful and have a safe and happy Halloween. Welcome back to Capital Comments. My guests today for this segment are Paul Vander, owner of Vander Mill in Spring Lake, and Etta Post, the owner of Post Family Farm. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We thought it'd be kind of fun for this segment to, because of the importance of agriculture to the Michigan economy, to talk with a couple of folks that are sort of involved in agriculture but sort of not. And so your names were brought up in our office, and we thought we'd invite you in to share with those who might be watching today a little bit about your businesses and what it is you do and how you're connected to agriculture, and give you a chance to sort of showcase what it is you do. So, Paul, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Etta.
All right. Well, we started Vander Mill in Spring Lake, which is just west of Grand Rapids towards the lake shore. We started as a cider mill, so we do cider and donuts in the fall. We do some other things throughout the summer season, but we closed down in the winter for a few months. We got into the business because there really isn't a cider mill over by the lakeshore. There are some a little bit closer to Grand Rapids and a lot more as you get further east in the state. And it's really a fun business. We employ a lot of the local high school kids, and we do a lot of field trips, school tours, that sort of thing, educating kids and families about making apple cider, as well as other Michigan agricultural products. We carry jams and jellies, things like that. So it's in the industry, it's kind of been dubbed agritourism, where you're taking the farming element of Michigan agriculture, and you're adding some entertainment and some value-added products to the mix to give people more of an experience and get them closer to Michigan agriculture.
Now, is a business like yours included in, say, the farm market tour that sort of runs through West Michigan and all the way up the coast of the lakeshore?
Yeah, I mean, we'd certainly like to be included in as many of the publicized driving tours and color tours and that sort of thing. So we work with other local organizations and Michigan publications to try to make sure that people know that it is a stop as they go towards the lakeshore and north as a place where they can take their family and hang out in the nice fall-time weather. So.
Okay. Now, you don't have any orchards, so you're not growing any of your own fruit, but how did you get interested in making cider, and how do you know which apples to use and what mixes to use to get just the right product?
Well, I got into the business because my in-laws own Parmenter Cider Mill over in Northville, Michigan.
Okay.
So we've certainly learned a lot from them getting started on how everything works. As this is coming up on our 4th fall season. So we've learned quite a bit over the last few years. We work with a local orchard in the Conklin area, Coopersville, just a little bit northeast of us. We make cider. We make pure cider. We don't pasteurize. We don't put any preservatives in the juice. So as far as what apples to use, a lot of that, at least in the early season right now, it's dependent on what's available. We've only got a few varieties available now. They tend to be less sweet and we get more varieties available to us throughout the fall. So the cider really changes every time we press it. We like to use a blend of apples, some sweet, some tart. So there isn't any apple safe from us squeezing it. So.
Okay, interesting. Okay, well, we'll come back to your business, but let's give Etta a chance to introduce us to the Post Family Farm.
Well, my husband and I bought our farm in 1969. It's a 80-acre farm, and it began as a very traditional farm. We raised pigs and had corn that we were growing in our fields. And about 20 years ago, we had our first public event, which was a hayride. And the farm has just kind of transitioned since then as being a destination for families to come to. So we continue with the evening hayrides, but we also have daytime events like school tours, and we do festivals on Saturdays for about 6 Saturdays in September and October. We're part of the Kent Harvest Trails.
Okay.
And so we get a lot of visitors in the spring and the fall. But the fall in particular, in the spring we also have a greenhouse where we have school tours that come to see the flowers growing. And in the fall, the children come and they pick a pumpkin. And probably one of the biggest draws to our place is our pumpkin donuts in the fall. Everyone loves our donuts. So.
Well, we're going to have a little donut war going on here because you make apple cider donuts, right?
And we do, yeah.
Okay. So the people watching this show will have their choice. They can either go buy some apple donuts or stop by your place and buy pumpkin donuts.
Or they can do both.
Or they could do both. That'd be even better. Now, when I was at your farm a couple of weeks ago for an event, I noticed that you also have animals that you allow kids to feed.